4 goals for Erling Haaland, but when Roy Keane called him almost at League Two level after Manchester City drew 0-0 with Arsenal, the forward had not scored in 5 matches. Did it get in his head? You wonder. It's now 7 goals in 4 games for Erling Haaland. When he was asked about Keane's comments after yesterday's win, Haaland replied, "I don't really care that much about that man, so that's all right." So that result now leaves City just a point behind Arsenal, who beat Bournemouth early in the day. And Arsenal's remaining fixtures are Fulham, Spurs and West Ham. Let's talk about Erling Haaland, shall we? And what,
on the comment as well.
On the comment, I think it's important that we talk about that.
Right. Okay, well, let's start somewhere, right? Okay. I remember when Roy Keane made that comment thinking, really? In what comparison can you make Erling Haaland a League Two player? Then I heard other professionals say to me that, yeah, I know what he means. I understand that. He has got some sort of limitations. And I'm thinking, am I watching a different player? If you think he's even comparable to a League Two player, no offence to them, every part of him is Premier League. Every part of him. It's not just the goals and the finishes. His physical presence that he will drive teams, his ability to run 100 metres in a really quick time, everything about him, his heading ability, left foot, right foot goals. I don't know what level you could think that he could play lower down, or he resembles something to do with a League Two player. I don't understand that at all. That makes no sense.
Okay, let me come to that. Manchester City's fixtures, by the way, Fulham, Spurs, West Ham, Arsenal's fixtures, Manchester United and Everton. Let me come back to your Haaland comment. I think the reason that was said was purely for clickbait, purely for headlines.
There's a beef between the Haaland and his dad.
Yeah, but you do not have to say that. You're right. There was no reason for Roy Keane to say that other than being really shady and knowing that it was going to generate a lot of kickback, a lot of comments. But also, Cass, there is that.
It's nonsense.
It's nonsense, but there's also the fair conversation that we have seen Manchester City perform better without Erling Haaland on the side.
No, I don't go along with that. I think what we saw in recent weeks, that Haaland wasn't quite at his best. But you would never imagine saying that last season. You'd have been ridiculed out of town. So the player that last season has now got 25 goals this season, who's top of the goal scoring charts, who's missed probably a quarter of the season, is now associated with lower down the league. Where I'm being careful because I played League One football at the start of my career, and there are a lot of good players in there.
No disrespect.
It's not. There are a lot of good players in there technically, and there's a lot of boys down there who could play much higher, by the way, as well. But to say you're talking about one of the best strikers in the world, that he's got limitations. Well, okay, we're not all perfect, but I tell you what, he's got things that he excels in. He's brilliant at that make him a Premier League player at the very highest level.
I completely agree. But again, just to play devil's advocate here, the big teams, the big fixtures that Manchester City have had this season, Erling Haaland has been quiet. He's been quiet in those games. He's pulling out the bag. He's getting braces in teams against teams further down the table. Against Arsenal in that game when Roy Keane had made those comments, you're like, where are you?
Okay, he's had in different games. Every player I know's had in different games. I watched Cristiano Ronaldo a couple of times live and didn't play particularly well.
Yeah.
He's one of the world's best players ever. You know, you can't be perfect every game. I find it ludicrous. I just think it's a nonsense argument. If anyone thinks that's logic, by saying that Haaland can be comparable to a League Two player, I just find laughable. Honestly, it's just utter nonsense. There's beef there. The biggest thing is there's beef before with what happened at Leeds with his dad and whatever. I would never imagine Roy just to do clickbait to get people to make a reaction. He might honestly think there are limitations, because I heard other people and read articles of people who said they understood what he meant. And I'm thinking, well, what part do you think is, what do you mean? I understand what he meant. How do you think that?
Yeah, and he proved.
And you said this season, and you're right to a point. There has been games he's not quite made the impact you'd expect. Well, does that cover last season? Do you want to go to last season and remember all the games he played and how he performed?
Yeah,
because he was terrific in nearly every performance.
Okay, yeah.
So
he's looking ahead to Fulham now, and then it's Spurs after that. Do you think in any way Spurs could do Arsenal a little favour and get one over against Manchester City? Bear in mind, in that fixture, Spurs City, Spurs have the upper hand.
Well, not Spurs at the moment. No, I think that I was there at Stamford Bridge on Thursday night. Felt a lot wrong. You know, the team that went unbeaten for a number of games and was top of the league, Spurs, they're not that Spurs team that were in September in the early part of the season. They're not. I think City could probably... And many people have said that Spurs have got a good record, which they have against City. But the problem is Spurs are not playing the way they did in years gone by where they could suffer and they could defend sort of better than they are now. I'm watching the other night and I'm thinking they're conceding goals at an alarming rate, Spurs, too easily.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later on the show. And by the way, on the subject of the title, Arsenal fan Andy called the show yesterday and conceded the title to Manchester City.
I can't see it. Spurs aren't going to do us a favour, are they? And everyone else has kind of got their feet up now. I think that's the issue, mate, to be honest. But I believe, I still, there's a bit of hope in me, like as a kid 20 years ago. But yeah, I don't think it will happen. It would be the dream, wouldn't it? Especially like 20 years later, it would be the dream. I mean, we won it at the Lane, so if we don't win it this year, I think we win it there.
You just never know. You never know.
No, you don't.
Cass.
But look, if Arsenal do come second... Was it Fergie came second in his second year, didn't he, at Man United, and then obviously won it a few years after. Arsenal have been terrific this year. I was there yesterday. I thought they were really good. They're going to be around for a while, Arsenal. They're going to be rubbing the shoulders with City and others. They'll be the team to beat. You know, they're a really good side.
Weekend Sports Breakfast with Natalie Sawyer and Tony Cascarino. Sunday mornings from 6 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.